Hi everyone. Today we are going to be doing the last chapter of our text, which is chapter 21, all about writing the research report. So the focus of this chapter is how to take everything that you have learned in the course on research methods after you've conducted research, how it is presented in an APA style manuscript. So the chapter goes into details about formatting, APA style, and then also shows you what it will look like in a completed manuscript. However, a lot of the style writings in this text can also apply to your research proposal. So the main thing here is to focus on producing a clear manuscript or clear research proposal, one that's ethical and respectful of participants and that adheres to APA guidelines. So whether you're doing quantitative, qualitative, or mixed methods, there are tips in there and particular details in APA that apply to that type of research design. So when you are looking at an APA style manuscript, these are the 7 common components: the title page, the abstract, which is a paragraph giving a summary and overview of the research, your introduction section, method, results, discussion, and references. So in this class, we have learned all about a little bit about what goes into the introduction and a lot about what goes into the methods. So of course, in this class, we're not actually conducting research, so you won't have results or a discussion to put in, but you can still get a lot from the details about APA style. So when you are writing in APA style, here are some of the guidelines in how to structure your writing. So really important to have clarity and organization. So this can be done by using headings, and you will learn in the chapter and also see in the template, and I think I have it on another slide here, about the heading structure that is used in APA style. And these headings can help give your writing a progressive flow and give you some structure. So of course, always wanting to link your ideas together and show how they connect to provide that explanation. So when you are writing, you do want an element of objectivity, meaning that you should write and then step away and then come back and reread your work so you can look at it with fresh eyes. So not necessarily that the work is objective, meaning that you don't have your voice in it, but objective from your own critiques. So you're able to reread and come back and look at it later. So the overall smoothness and style. So avoiding shifts in tense and person. So I've shared that I prefer first person. You'll read that in this chapter too. Instead of saying the researcher will, using active voice I or we. Also, in terms of tense, depending on the type of report, when you're doing a research proposal, it will be in future tense because you have not yet carried out the research. However, if you are writing a manuscript about completed research, you are likely using past tense. However, despite the tense, it's important to use active voice to eliminate any type of repetition and to ensure clarity. When you are taking a second look with that objective stance at your own work, look out for redundancy. That's something that we all do. I know I do. I'm sure you've noticed in these video lectures, tend to repeat ourselves, and how we can rephrase to make it as succinct as possible. The goal for great writing is to have it say the most impactful in the fewest words possible. So you want enough words to fully explain and articulate what each part of your proposal, but you don't want to have too many to where it takes away from the strength of it. And then of course, first person. So the textbook does have some resources for good writing. I will add one here, which is the Purdue Online Writing Center. Let me show you there so you can see how that could help you with your writing. Okay, this is the Purdue Online Writing Center from Purdue University, and it is a really useful page to reference when you are writing in APA style. So when you go here, you'll see the Purdue Online Writing Lab. They have an introduction to APA style, and then they have these formatting guides. So here you can see when you click on the formatting guide for APA, you can see this huge menu opens up. So this will have for you basics on in-text citations, footnotes, endnotes, your reference page, details for you to include for there, and then also how to format different references, such as references from a journal or periodical. And there's also sample papers, headings, all types of different resources that you can use to reference to help you with your APA style. So in terms of the language, when you are writing an APA manuscript or a proposal, it's important to adhere to the same standards of ethics that we have been talking about through this course. And this also shows up in your writing. So some of the ways that you can do that is to use bias-free language, which means person-first language and identity-first language based on what the participant prefers in terms of their identity. So instead of, so using something like students with ADHD, and there's some other examples in the text, instead of broad general terms like the elderly or the disabled. So making sure that you are as descriptive and detailed as possible about particular ethnic, cultural, racial backgrounds and identity is important in your writing. So in terms of having inclusive terms, use gender identity and gender pronouns that are preferred by the participant. So that can be something that you might put in your interview protocol that you always start off with when you're starting off the interview. Same with racial and ethnic identity, being culturally specific and using self-identified terms instead of broad terms like students of color. Avoiding terms like normal or abnormal and use the specific descriptive terms as possible. In terms of intersectionality, you want to recognize all of the contours and components of participants' multiple identities, race, gender, ability status, and so on and so forth. And another way, kind of also harkening back to using active voice, is being respectful of participants' time and acknowledging their role in the research, respectful participation. So acknowledging participants' actions. So stating that students completed the survey. And this is also an example of active voice versus the survey was completed by students. So try to look for that in your writing as well. So here are some details about the style and formatting. Again, if you are interested in more or have a particular question, you can look at that Purdue online resource. But here are the headings and the heading labels. When you go to the Purdue online writing lab, it will have visuals of what this looks like as well. When it comes to numbers, after you completed research and you are presenting the results, APA Style has specific guidelines for how to go about reporting the number, like using words for numbers unless it is greater than 10, using metric system when reporting your measurements, and then including your particular test statistic. So here are some examples of what that might look like. Now, it's really important when you are writing that you are ethical, not only in your participants, but ethical in terms of your integrity as an author. So writing in your own voice and making sure to cite when you are using or building on the ideas of others, when you're referencing others' work. So in your literature review or in all parts of your research proposal or paper, it's important to have clear citations and make sure that you are not accidentally plagiarizing or not writing in your own voice. So in-text citations. So in-text citations are when you reference the work of another researcher. So they might look like this. So here are some examples. So you might have a parenthetical citation, like you can see this quote here, and this quote came from the research of this researcher here. You can see last name, comma, date. Now that is if you have a parenthetical citation. You can also have a narrative citation where you put the researcher's name and then the year and then the information that you got from them. So as you can see, these parenthetical and narrative citations, you are paraphrasing what that researcher said. Now, if you are quoting directly, APA discourages you from using too many direct quotes, but sometimes it is necessary. Now, if it is a short quotation, fewer than 40 words, it is an in-text citation like this. You can see the part that is copied directly from the researchers in quotation marks. And then you have, again, the citation, the author. So here we have more than 3 researchers. So you see the et al., the year, and the page. You don't need the page for a parenthetical citation, but you do for quotations. If it's a long quotation, meaning more than 40 words, because this is shorter than 40 words, longer than 40 words, you have a block quote. So it is left justified. You can see here that that block quote is left justified. You don't need quotation marks, but you still do have your in-text citation with the author name, the year, and the page number. So when you are working on your reference page, so you need to put in-text citations throughout the text and then have a reference page at the end. And when you are formatting these, you can use the Georgia State Library. I showed you in lecture 2 how you can get the APA citation from the Georgia State Library, or you can format it yourself. So here is an example of a journal article. You can see here are the researchers. So, or the authors, so last name, first initial, middle initial. The authors are listed based on the order that they appear in the paper, the year, the article title. This is the journal name, the journal issue, the journal volume, the journal issue, and then the page numbers. And then this is the direct link to that article. So this is what will be at your reference page. And then this is what it would look like as a parenthetical citation and a narrative citation. So since this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 authors, so it's more than 3, you have the et al. Now, when you are writing a quantitative research proposal or report, this builds on what we read in chapter 4. These are the sections: the introduction, the methods that include the instruments, the procedures, the results, which will include the statistics, the analysis, and the calculations, and whether or not the researchers accepted or rejected the null hypothesis. Or failed to reject, tables with those results, and then a discussion where they interpret the findings in light of those hypotheses in the literature. And qualitative research still follows the APA style. However, the structure might differ. In general, it still has the introduction, the method where they introduce you to the design, their participants, and their methods for establishing validity. And then also we'll move on to the results where they discuss the findings and the themes with quotes from the participants. And both types should include ethical considerations, but you will definitely see that in qualitative research. In mixed methods, it's really important that the mixed methods report states the research paradigm and is demonstrating that they have addressed the research question with both methods. So we'll likely start with their research questions, then the particular type of design. For instance, was it sequential? Was it what happened in phase 1, phase 2? How was it integrated? Then in the results section, they will have a mixture of the results from the qualitative section as well as the results from the statistical analyses. And then your final synthesis where you interpret the results of both types of data analysis together. So some reminders when you are reading and writing an APA manuscript. Consistent transparency, so being very clear about what you did, again, keeping in your own voice, not elaborating, not exaggerating results, using APA style throughout, providing evidence for claims. This is after you've carried out the research and you are making your argument and presenting it, that you provide evidence for those claims that you're making, and keep the reader in mind. So some things to think about as you are reflecting on writing, thinking about the format that could fit. Oh, I did want to mention too, at the end of chapter 1, there's an example of an APA manuscript that's annotated in the text to show you the different headings. So make sure you check out that in the text. And then also thinking about, how do you demonstrate that you're an ethical researcher in your writing? And which section do you think would be most challenging to write? So please leave your questions. And if you have resources or tips on APA style for the class, please leave them in perusal.